Testing audio.
Testing audio.
Speaking at a decent volume.
Speaking at a decent volume.
Okay, let's see how that turns out.
Yeah.
Testing audio.
Testing audio.
Speaking at a decent volume.
Speaking at a decent volume.
Okay, let's see how that turns out.
Yeah.
ABC Sports.
Yeah.
And then later, like, seeing how he conducted himself and, like, kept his cool in, like, tough situations. He ended up working as the head of ABC programming. Of course, like, a big highlight there for Pure PhD is, I don't know if we talk about it much, but, like, on this stream, but, like, a big highlight for Pure PhD is his handling of Twin Peaks.
And if you're a fan of Twin Peaks, you're wondering what did he do wrong?
Yeah, so
this is not the Showtime
version.
This is the ABC version.
Yeah, the original series, and
the first 2 seasons. Yeah,
and like Twin Peaks got huge amounts of praise when it came out. Like it got respect from Hollywood, it got respect from directors like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas at the time, and it helped like him build connections.
Book, yeah.
And like yeah, it was like a really big deal. But then, like, you know, maybe...
He was responsible for it being on the air. He's also responsible for why it's not on the air.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
And then, like, also, like, with his, like, you know, with that working as a strategy for him, like, being bold, making bold decisions, he went on to make some other things after that, including, like, Cop Rock, and which was, like, a cop musical and stuff like that, which, like, a lot of people hated. And also NYPD Blue, you can read about the stories behind that. And then also Drew Carey Show, that's a favorite of mine.
Yeah.
I've never talked about that on the stream.
He doesn't remember,
that's
he
where
didn't
the whole
remember it
stream
was in
by
the
itself.
book.
I didn't remember it was in the book, and I love Drew Carey
It's only a line. I don't even know he's responsible for it, but like he mentioned, like it was like one of the standout shows that you could remember. I guess
I do remember that. I remember Michael Eisner having no idea what Whose Line Is It Anyway was. I remember hearing that back in the day.
I like they would have a Drew Carey show on in the parks even.
Yeah, and like
dangerous.
Like they were launching like some Drew Carey show stuff in the parks.
You can't see Drew Carey.
And Michael Eisner was meeting them. He's like, "Who are you guys again?" It's like we're launching stuff in your parks, and like
they even showed up in Superstar Limo for promotion stuff.
Yeah. There's like a fun footage that we saw in like a Defunctland episode.
Yeah.
Shout outs to Defunctland.
Yeah.
Where like you know they're way more popular than us, but like yeah, everybody should watch Defunctland.
Yeah.
Very good coverage of like a defunct Disney theme park attractions and whatnot and beyond.
Huh.
And in their episode on Superstar Limo, you actually saw footage of like Drew Carey and like Drew Carey Show cast members promoting Superstar Limo in the theme parks and stuff in promotional footage, and it was very, very funny. Check out the Superstar Limo episode of Defunctland.
Yeah.
Let me see what else. And then ABC, of course, got acquired by Capital Cities, which. If you're interested in the business world, they had really great leadership, according to people like Warren Buffett, and to that alone was like a big selling point for Warren Buffett to make a big investment in Capital Cities. So like when that happened, that was like a big deal in the investing world.
I mean, later on he would invest in Disney, right? Or was he already doing it?
Yeah, when Disney would end up acquiring ABC Capital Cities, Warren Buffett was present, and like he makes a cameo in this book with so like I feel it's almost as if
as a character.
As a character, it's almost as if there's like a moment where like there's Michael Eisner standing there, and then like Bob Iger standing there. And then Warren Buffett is standing there. And I don't know why I pictured it in a parking lot for some reason. I forget why. But, yeah, so they're all... I don't know why exactly.
Oh, like
just like,
King of the Hill? Or...
Yeah, I don't know. King of the Hill or something like... Oh, yep. But, yeah. So that's like this meeting of worlds. And, like, also I'm working my way through Warren Buffett's biography, The Snowball, also, so you can keep an eye out for that, too.
Yeah.
And I don't know, this book was much easier to read than The Snowball, so I got through this book
faster. It's a very easy book to read. He doesn't he doesn't write anything too long.
Yeah.
Nothing overstays his welcome in the book.
Yeah, they made it a very readable book. I mean, I think, also for...
Like, a lot of the notes we have on here, most of it he only talks about for, one sentence.
Yeah, I do wonder, how much of that is because, the core audience for a lot of this stuff might be older people.
It could be younger people, too.
It also could be younger people.
Yeah.
It could also be people interested in Disney who are younger people. It could also be people who are business people who just don't have a lot of time. They're like, I just want to know the gist of it here, Bob. Yeah. So, don't waste my time here. Yeah. How CEOs read executive summaries of reports and stuff, whole prospectuses of, companies' backgrounds and stuff like that. So yeah, they're very respectful of your time.
Also, they, cover, the highlights. So some of the stuff here, they'll just be there just because, someone's going to ask about it, yeah.
Right. So, yeah, and it also makes sure they don't overstate things and get into so many details that they have to approve everything, and then they actually get themselves in hot water because it is a living company that
some of the stuff that is in the book. Yeah, you're wondering whatever. Yeah.
You're wondering okay, how many details are they leaving out and all that? Yeah. So that's gonna come with the territory.
Or maybe there's legal stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, or hey Bob, you can't publish that or whatever. And it's okay, let's just keep this short. So, and Disney's kind of notorious for being very stringent and it's a publicly traded company.
Was he still CEO at the time, or was it after he left?
Let me see. This was 2019, and 2019. Let's see, Bob Iger. Fox.
When did he leave?
Walt Disney Company. In 2020 and 2019, he releases.
Oh, it was before he retired.
And then September 2019, he released his memoir. In 2020, he announced his intention to retire. And then February 25th of 2020, wow, what timing is that? February 25th, 2020, he announced the board of directors named Bob Chapek as CEO. And then in April, the board extended Iger's mandate until 2021 due to COVID-19. And then...
yeah, I always found that was a little fishy.
Yeah, honestly. So that's always weird. I don't know. I mean, they already knew COVID was happening in Asia by that point.
Yeah, I know. So way before in 2019.
But, I guess a lot of these things happen slowly. But
I don't know if they could have done anything about it if people would have listened, because it's people that end up listening anyway. But I don't know.
Who knows? Not me. Above my pay grade.
Yeah.
And then July 12th, 2023, Iger and Disney extend the contract until 2026. So he's back.
I'm back, baby.
What is that from again?
I think it's like George Costanza or something.
I'm back, baby. Didn't you leave, George? George Costanza. We love referencing Seinfeld, even though
it's a problematic show.
It's a problematic show, and it's really old too. And people on YouTube and Twitch probably don't even. They get the goofy little memes, but they don't actually watch the show. We barely watch the show at this point.
Yeah.
And then ABC got acquired. ABC Capital Cities got acquired by Disney, and
is there anything you want to talk about with the acquisitions? Just so it's more natural than just going for the timeline, because we don't really need to go for the timeline.
Well, what kind of stuff
I guess Black Panther.
Okay, stuff like that. I want to say something about the Disney merger, I guess.
Okay, go ahead, yeah.
Go on, yeah. I guess, what do I want to say about that?
I don't know if we talked much about it, but also, I don't think he was CEO at the time, but, yeah, it wasn't a big deal at the time, I think. I don't think it really blew Disney away that they bought ABC, other than, its history with the Disney company.
Yeah,
it wasn't, Marvel or something as big as that.
I guess, the main thing about that is this transition of this succession from Michael Eisner to Iger. Yeah. And, there's a whole sequence of events that happens then that's, so complicated that, it's impossible to repeat right now. But, it's very interesting how that plays out. And how, they portray Iger as, trying to play his hand properly, where he's I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers, but also, if this can happen, I would like it to. But, I don't want to, offend people or hurt people's feelings in a terrible way or anything like that.
He wanted to
intentionally or anything.
He wanted to become CEO, but he didn't want to like piss off Eisner at the same time.
Yeah, he wanted to be respectful. He didn't want to be like, hey, how's like when are you leaving, or like or like, hey, I want that seat or whatever.
It's very subtle. It's like it's sort of I picture it sort of as like Seinfeld thing actually, like CEO, huh? Like.
Well, if you know
if you're leaving, who's going to take your place?
Who are you thinking about? Well, if you know, let me know if you think of anybody. It's like I don't know if there's anyone else.
Yeah, he says it very. Unlike a lot of people on YouTube, he says it a lot more politically correct with what Eisner did right. Like he had a good 10 years, and then he had a 21-year.
And then like Eisner doesn't leave on great terms. Like that's kind of publicly known outside of this book too. Yeah. But like I think even then Iger's still still trying to do the right thing too, even after Eisner's already left and all that.
I mean, like now, like I don't know if it was talked about in the book or if we talked about it, but the board, no one knew who the successor for Disney was gonna be, the Disney CEO. Like they still have that problem now also, so like they still have to try and run the company, but like they never found a successor. So what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, it's like Succession but for Disney, like it's a very complicated process, and like you gotta look for people who look like a good fit, and like sometimes like I guess the person here is like the best fit, so we gotta go with them. And even just now with like Bob Chapek, they were like, oh, maybe this guy's good, like he seems all right. And then like things didn't go well, shareholders were upset, so I don't know. Then they're like, okay, we'll bring back Iger again out of retirement, and like so that's a really tricky. That's a really tricky thing. Like how do you handle that in a way?
It's sort of like embarrassing too. Like it was like, oh, we made a mistake with this guy. We should have gotten rid of Iger.
Yeah, and that's and like people I mean, you can be like very critical of like, okay, like when Bob Chapek doesn't do his job, he gets a big golden parachute. But like when an employee like makes a small mistake that like only affects an infinitesimal amount of money versus like a big CEO that costs billions of dollars or whatever, like the employee gets fired, but like Bob Chapek gets a big golden parachute. Feels like a double standard there is what people would say. That's like a fair enough statement that a lot of people would say. But it is also a tricky thing. Like, how do you actually handle that kind of situation? Like, if you actually don't know who's going to run a big company like that. And, like, if it's not being done by, like, a certain, like, I don't know. Like, if it's being done by a board of directors, how do you decide that? And, like, it's really tricky. And then there's all these people trying to acquire a company and gun for it. And, like, oh, yeah, we didn't even mention, like Comcast. There was also, like, an attempt to acquire Disney a hostile takeover from Comcast at some point. We didn't even mention that. I think that's around this point in the timeline.
I don't know if it was in the book. I know Funkman knows about it.
Hostile takeover attempt. And then like this is also happening the same time as like when Eisner's sort of getting ousted, and like and there's a hostile attempt to oust Eisner from like Roy E. Disney and stuff like that.
So this is like they did it through buying the shares, I guess?
Yeah, there was like some, I don't remember exactly. There must have been something like that happening, but they ended up like blocking the attempt. Yeah, like they didn't get enough shareholder approval. So it was a very tough time for the company, and like
struggles bigger than time and stuff. DreamWorks.
Yeah, and like I
think it's sort of like Katzenberg and like
Katzenberg, SKG Dream.
They're probably like thinking about doing this the whole time.
Yeah. So and that was like after the falling out with Eisner back in the day too. So yeah, but so it was very tricky for everybody.
That said, I guess we could talk about like how Comcast almost bought Fox, and how that could have been a whole different timeline.
Yeah,
that's covered in the book.
Yeah,
they actually offered more money than Disney did.
Yeah, and like when Disney ended up acquiring Fox, like it was like this weird moment where it was like, oh, like Iger normally has his lunches with Rupert Murdoch. That's so weird. Too, that's pretty weird. Yeah. But I'm like, okay, maybe that's just a thing people like that do. I don't know. I guess
they go to the same conventions together, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty weird. Yeah. But like, yeah, and then.
Oh, are you running for president today? Oh, not today.
So I guess you just kind of, the better you just like get along with people, like, I don't know, good opportunities can happen, and that ended up becoming a big scaling thing for the company, like ability for the company to scale up and become like Disney it is today, where it's like a mega corporation, mega corporate entertainment company, mega entertainment corporation, I guess. But like maybe even before that was Pixar. Because that was their first acquisition that was like supposed to.
And they'll have to all the other ones. It was the domino effect. It was the first thing done by Iger, and it wouldn't have been done by Eisner.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like his big like move. Like Iger's a very dynamic CEO where he makes big plays. Like he started with Twin Peaks when he was at ABC Programming. He didn't even know how to run ABC Programming, but after he acquired Twin Peaks, he's like, okay, I'm starting to understand. Like,
and people didn't believe in Twin Peaks, but he believed in it.
Yeah, and then like, so he was like, okay, I'm gonna do a similar play again at Disney. I'm gonna acquire Pixar. Like, if they're out competing us, then we're gonna acquire them.
He was noticing in the I don't know if it was in the book, but he noticed in the international theme parks, like people were going to the Pixar things, like Toy Story.
Oh, interesting.
And
yeah, there's already some agreements with Pixar and stuff.
Yeah, but they had a whole deal with,
But like, yeah, they want to inject more creative energy into the company and like bring it back to like the animations and the movies and stuff like that, because that drives all the other segments of the company, like products, theme parks, all that. So that involved acquiring like the talent there and their abilities there, and then also developing a partnership with Steve Jobs, also, who they said would become a big friend of Iger at the time, and like just like they would influence each other in like lots of different ways, and up until Steve Jobs' passing, and it was actually quite a poignant moment between Steve Jobs and Iger when like Steve Jobs like there's a moment where like they're just about to acquire Pixar, and like Steve Jobs has this big reveal as to, maybe I won't even say it. He has a big reveal to Iger, and I don't know, you can guess what it is maybe, and then it's like a poignant moment, and it sort of sets the tone of their friendship for the rest of their time together.
It was Steve Jobs, I think, and then the Jobs family after he passed away was like the majority shareholder or something, like after that Pixar acquisition.
Yeah, and it's
like I heard like as a Disney employee, like the execs talked to me and they said they might spend a lot of money on Pixar, but they thought it was worth it.
Yeah, you're not just acquiring like the assets; it's also like the creative talent, the management, the energy, the processes. Like, you know, it's not just a dollar amount that you can crunch it down to. Like, but that being said, like they were trying to do that for stuff like Marvel and Star Wars and whatnot.
And Fox, which is the most expensive one.
Fox,
that said, the execs probably can't say anything bad about Iger in front of me, so like maybe there's that too. But like, I don't know, it looks like it was worth it. As the company grew,
Yeah, and then
we're talking about Ed Catmull and John Lasseter.
Yeah, I'll just highlight another thing about like how to reemphasize this, like with Pixar, was that when how Iger handled the situation with Steve Jobs, like created this long-lasting professional relationship and friendship, and like just handling that situation with such sensitivity produced like something of such value that, like, you know, you couldn't put into like quantifiable value. Like
maybe that's
you couldn't buy that, you know.
Maybe that's what he mentions that in the book. Yes, I remember.
So that's why people say like, oh, this is like a good book for him to write as like a corporate leader, is to like say like as a person in a leadership role, you know, having emotional skills and soft skills and emotional intelligence.
Soft skills are very important.
And having
they teach you that in business school,
and having empathy, you know, like that's really important. Person with high degree of ethics. But you know, you have a lot of criticisms of certain decisions and whatnot.
Certain ethical decisions,
For sure. I think I would pretty much agree with those.
Yeah.
There's definitely things worthy of criticizing as well.
That said, like, I guess it did end up acquiring a lot of businesses because, like, he was able to talk to these big CEOs and, like, not make them feel offended or anything.
Yeah, so, yeah, and Yeah, so yeah, that did come in handy with Murdoch too.
Yeah.
And like, it was like, yeah, like, could you imagine like a lot of people we know making a deal with someone like that, and like creating like something of value from that kind of situation? Like, it's hard to imagine, right? Kind
I
of
guess
unthinkable.
Hames and Bond.
Yeah,
And I guess Hames and Bond and Eisner also.
Yeah. So that's Power Rangers. Is Power Rangers also in Iger's tenure, or like?
That was Eisner's tenure.
That's Eisner. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I'm pretty sure Iger was the one who sold it to Hames and Bond actually. So there is that. Yeah. It might have been a little bit in Iger's tenure. Yeah. They still had Power Rangers in the parks at the beginning of Iger's tenure.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. Let's see.
What's Ed Catmull up to now?
I don't really know. He wrote his. I think he was the one that wrote the book Creativity Inc.
Oh, cool.
So I think that was him. I heard people like that book. And then John Lasseter, we all know what happened with him afterwards, after Me Too.
That gets covered in the book. It's like a sentence, but like it was addressed.
You have to address it.
And he mentioned like it was problematic for a while.
Yeah. You have to address it.
Like there was hugs and then whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and like you can't really recover from something like that. There's not really like. I don't think there's like a restorative justice process for like people in positions of that kind of power.
Yeah.
Like maybe if it's like a minor felon or something in like a small community that's like has no impact and is just like trying to get a small job at a small business and just like fade into obscurity or something, that might be one thing. But like if you're in a position of power like that, you really don't have like any way of like, I don't know, recovering from a big public blowout like that, other than like resting on your riches and stuff like that. And
he's not in the public anymore. Yeah.
So, but he's probably pretty wealthy. But like,
I haven't seen him on TMZ or anything, so it's pretty interesting.
But like, you lose that like public image, and like once people see you in public, you have no right to your privacy or whatever, like that kind of thing. So there's that side of things.
Yeah, that's a pretty big punishment. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we live in a publicly. I mean, like, it was because like there was no recourse for a lot of people that like using like public displays of public airings of like grievances is like there's no punitive form of punishment from the criminal justice system.
There's a lot of grievances that aren't being released.
Yeah, that's too, because there's so much power. So the power dynamic really. Yeah. Anyway, that's a whole topic in itself, and I feel like I'm getting myself in hot water here by saying too much. So yeah, something had to happen. So obviously what he did was wrong, and like something had to happen. So yeah, Marvel. Yeah, I don't know. Marvel was like obviously like a huge franchise. They did an interesting. My most interesting perspective on it was like how they cracked down the numbers. They crunched the numbers for that because like they were going to acquire it, and then they had to figure out, okay, what would be a good price to pay for this? Because like there are Marvel movies underway, there are Marvel like theme parks potentially. There's Marvel products, so we have to think what would be a good price tag to actually acquire these rights. And like based on what's existing, what's not existing, what we can get out of this. Of course, it like blew up and like became this huge like, worth tens of billions.
It's the box office now.
And now it is, well, for a while. Maybe now in the past like 2-3 years, it's not as much.
But, there's no box office in the last 2-3 years.
Yeah. But before that, like for a good like 10 years, it was like pretty much driving not only Disney, but the whole economy and stuff like that. So,
entire countries.
So like, just tens of billions of dollars based on this one.
All people will talk about is Marvel. All of YouTube would just talk about Marvel all the time.
I'm sure they were very, very happy with how it turned out. But like at the time, like it's probably pretty hard to figure out like what would be a worthwhile payment. Like
it was in the beginning, and there was only like 2-3 movies at the time.
So yeah, and then like They kind of let you fill in the blanks, but they're like, and at the end he says like, we got to figure out something to do with this that's like really bold and like new, and like why not do Black Panther as a movie, and like have like great black
That was the main
black
thing I remember
representation
from it,
in films
and you
and
mentioned
stuff.
it. I was like, he was like, yeah, that was the Twin Peaks of Marvel for him.
Yeah, and he talks about it in the book, and he says he's very proud of it, and he has a whole letter he addresses to his employees and all
He was
that.
very proud of Captain Marvel also.
Very proud of Captain Marvel as well. So, I mean, people said it couldn't be done in theaters. They did it in theaters. He sends a whole letter to his company, so it's very exciting for him.
That said, there's no more Captain Marvel films, and even though the Acolyte was a success, like they're not continuing with that series despite its cliffhanger.
I mean, it's very. I feel like the Disney company is in a very different position now. With like instead
the
of
world's in a
things
different
growing,
position now, I guess.
the world's in a different position now. Now, like the little kids are running the kindergarten or whatever, like a little bit.
Also, yeah, there's still probably in danger of a lot of hostile takeovers now compared to like before.
That literally almost
Even when
happened.
like they're a ridiculously expensive and powerful company.
Yeah, that literally almost happened recently,
Yeah.
right? Like there was a private equity investor that wanted to like hostily take over Disney and probably like sell it part and parcel up for like cash or whatever. But like yeah, because
Yeah, like,
of like the
I think the main
relationships.
thing was like they wanted to sell like ESPN, which wasn't profitable.
But yeah,
so
yeah.
would have been approved. Yeah.
Yeah, but like yeah, they gotta because they built such good relationships with people like George Lucas and Vereen Powell Jobs and whatnot. Like they were able to get enough shareholders to prevent the hostile takeover.
Yeah.
That would have been a very very different timeline if that happened. You know,
I mean,
that was recent.
I still would have preferred if Comcast had bought Fox. Yeah. Just because like I felt like Disney is way too powerful for the one industry. Yeah.
That's the Disney acquisition of Fox. I meant like the private equity investor taking over Disney.
Yeah, no, I mean like Comcast having bought Fox. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We're talking about okay. Yeah, gotcha. And then after Marvel, there was the Star Wars acquisition, the Lucasfilm acquisition, and yeah, they had like an ongoing relationship since like ABC programming, because like. Yeah, like I think that like after Twin Peaks, like he got the attention of Spielberg and Lucas.
And
I think
Pixar was also part of partially like it was originally a Lucas Skywalker Ranch brand and stuff.
Yeah, Pixar was under ILM before.
Yeah.
And also Pixar was also under Steve Jobs, of course.
Yeah.
And so it's all tying together.
Yeah.
And then let me see, Lucasfilm. And then, like, George Lucas had an ongoing relationship with Bob Iger because of Young Indie.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I was going to say that. I just remember that right now. Yeah.
So yeah,
so that was on ABC way back in the day.
So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the series didn't do well, but like I think George Lucas still appreciated the gesture.
Yeah.
And and then. So
and ABC didn't do well.
But then George Lucas was really hesitating in selling general timeline of what they cover in the book. But like this is generally what they own is this huge empire of stuff here, like movies, TV studios, merchandise, music, theme parks, experiences, consumer products, Marvel. 20th Century Fox, Star Wars, National Geographic, ESPN, Disney ABC, Disney Theatrical, just tons and tons of stuff.
Theatrical too, I don't know that. I guess they don't own Disney on Ice.
Or they have like some, I don't know, I don't know how it works exactly. It's too much to get into at this point. It's kind of beyond the scope of things at this point, and the main thing we want to focus on is this man, the things that happened under his tenure, as according to his book. And one thing we'll say before we even start this review of the book is that all this is being told from the perspective of like how they say it in the book, and like we don't actually know how these things actually went down. It could have been like phrased a certain way in the book. We don't know. I've never met the guy. I've never met anyone who's met the guy. So, like, we're just going to take the book as is, and we're just going to, mention how they're saying stuff in the book as they're saying
That
it.
said, it was very interesting that, like, when I joined the Disney company, it was around the time he started,
Yeah, and it was an interesting time when he joined, because, like, there was a lot of transition happening. There was a recession happening.
The theme parks were doing very well, though.
Yeah.
They were buying Pixar and everything.
Yeah, it was a lot of their like major acquisitions was like a big turning point for the company, and they did like a lot of their key major acquisitions. And if you just see this timeline here that we're going to go over for what happens in the book, like he joins the company after joining from ABC, as we're going to discuss, and then after Disney merges with ABC. Under Iger, they do several major acquisitions. They acquire Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars / Lucasfilm, and I guess that includes Indiana Jones as well. Also Fox, also launching Disney Plus as a platform for their direct-to-consumer streaming app, entering the streaming wars, and also some social upheaval with like Me Too and Roseanne and other things like that. So. Yeah, we're going to discuss a lot of things under this guy's career, and very prominent businessman, and also like how they pitch him in the book as like they portray him as like someone who like tries to run things with I don't know, with a sensitive touch, and like how he uses emotional intelligence is how they try to describe him as doing things. But I don't know, it's a book, so like they want to put things in the most positive light as possible. So. I don't know. Yeah, I guess, are we ready to begin?
Yeah, we're ready, yeah.
So